Yo, what is up guys, and welcome to another Wild Rift video. And in today's video I'm going to be showing you guys an updated tier list with Sion and Samira, and updated with all the changes including the Camille nerf tier list for every single role in the game. And this video is not sponsored anymore by wildstats.gg. I just want to give them 20 seconds right now because I really want to thank them because they really supported the channel, and I want to thank you guys as well a lot because you guys actually checked out the website a lot. They were very happy with the results, but unfortunately, they're not going to work on the website anymore, so they're abandoning it. But thank you guys so much for being so nice and allowing me to do sponsorships like this. But yeah, no more sponsor anymore, so let's get into it. So, Baron Lane. I changed my mind about a few champions. Wait, which one? Which ones were it? So first of all, I changed my mind about Jace, which is this guy right here. And you know what? You know what? This video reaches 2,000 likes, I'm gonna push myself and make a Jace video because I feel like I was wrong about Jace. I put him on top of the A tier now. I always used to put him like very low, you know, sometimes even in the B tier or like even the C tier even, but well, never C tier, but like very low in the B tier. But he's not that bad. He's not that bad, and I realize that now. Like he's definitely not amazing, but he's not that bad. Like he's actually pretty good. I changed my mind about Camille as well. I mean, you know why I changed my mind? Because the third ability nerf is, how do you say it? If you hit an enemy, the cooldown actually becomes lower than what it used to be. So like during a team fight, you're actually gonna have your hookshot more often than before. If you get ability haste, I'm not gonna explain to you why, just because like flat cooldown reduction, blah blah blah. But basically, if you hit your third ability, then the cooldown is even lower. So yeah, Camille, Baron Lane, not S plus tier anymore, but she's decent. Um, I changed my mind about like other roles. So yeah, Graga's AP is still broken. Like this champion is the best champion you can pick in the Baron lane well, not by far, but yes. After that we got Garen. Think about Garen is like Garen is not necessarily like an utterly broken champion anymore. It's just Garen is always good. Like unless you're against Vayne, Garen is just always a good pick. Like Garen does well into any matchup really in the Baron lane. There's no real matchup that just straight up destroys Garen. Like Camille is supposed to destroy Garen, but not anymore because she doesn't do true damage early game anymore. But there's literally no champion that destroys Garen, so you can always pick this champion and do well. Wukong is not the same as Garen because there are matchups that do well into him, but Wukong is so unbelievably powerful, especially that Divine Sunderer power spike, because like you can't trade with him. Every time he uses his first ability, he heals up so much because of his passive, Grasp with the Undying, and the stupid Divine Thunder. He heals up for like 15 to 20% of his health. So you literally can't trade with him. And of course, late game, he becomes incredibly strong. Another champion that is incredibly strong in this patch right now in the Baron lane is Fiora. They actually buffed Fiora. She gets more health now in the late game. So like late game Fiora is incredibly strong. She already was quite strong, but now it's even stronger because you have 140 more health in the late game, which is actually quite big. Next up is Sett. And Sett, I would just say Sett is solid. Like not amazing, but solid. It's like his second ability is very good. His first ability is very nice to trade in your lane. His late game is very good, and he counters certain champions very well. Like for example, Cannon. He counters Cannon very, very well because of his ultimate, right? He can push him away out of the team. Or like Amumu, for example. If Amumu tries to engage with his first ability, Sett can just push him away with his ultimate. So those are tools that Sett has that not many champions can offer. Next up is Darius. Darius is like, he got nerfed, I remember. And I actually thought that Darius would not be as strong, but he's definitely very strong. What do I want to say about Darius? Because what is there to say really? He's just very strong. The thing about Darius is he can solo carry games. Like Darius is built to solo carry games. If your team is trash, you can still carry with your ultimate and your passive, right? Like that's the whole thing of Darius. And besides that, he's very tanky, nice, just a solid champion. Next up is Renekton. Renekton got buffed. Like he's tankier in the late game. Also 140 health more tankier late game. He's already incredibly powerful in the early game, but now he's actually quite formidable tank in the late game as well. Like you go for, oh man, my back. You go for Stoneplate Enchant, and with the 140 bonus health, he actually becomes very tanky in the late game. So during team fights, you know, him being able to tank up just a little bit more is going to be very nice for you. Next up is Riven, who is also such a good Baron laner. Like, she can carry so well. But Riven is hard to play. Like, Riven is not easy to play. I do have a few Riven videos for you guys if you want to get to know her. But, like, you shouldn't expect to get into Riven and expect her to be S plus tier. Like, when you start off playing Riven, she's the hardest champion to play out of any of the S plus tier champions. Even harder than Fiora, I would say. Because at least Fiora is a bit straightforward. You have to hit vitals. But Riven, you have to be able to do such good combos with your first ability, third ability, all your abilities. Really, like, she's all about combos. Next up is the champion that just came out, which is Sion, guys. I wouldn't put him S plus tier, but definitely S tier. He's one of the tankiest champions in the game if you play him well. And what I mean with if you play him well, he permanently gets bonus health if you kill minions or an enemy champion. So if you farm up a lot in the late game, he's gonna have like 5,000 HP. It's crazy. And his turret pushing is very, very good. Like, these two things are really what makes Sion Sion. And then also, his second ability is actually surprisingly good. During teamfights, his second ability can shred like tanks even, because it does HP based on it does damage based on maximum HP. So like, Sion is just an incredible champion. But of course, he struggles against champions that are very mobile, like Master Yi, for example. Because if you can't slow a champion, you're never going to be able to hit your first ability. So there is a few champions that do counter Sion. Quite a few, actually. That is why I put him in the S tier and not in the S plus tier. Next up is, actually, it's not Jax. He shouldn't be here. I would put him here. Next up is Irelia. So Irelia is incredible, right? Incredible. I'm working on Irelia. Some days I play Irelia, but it's just so hard to master this champion, guys. I don't want to bring out a video on her if I haven't mastered her yet. You know what's funny? I've already mastered Sion. I played like 3 games of Sion, and I already knew fully how to play this champion, how to fully do his combos. But Irelia, I played I think 30 games of Irelia, and I'm still very uncomfortable playing this champion. And that's the thing with Irelia, right? You really have to be good at this champion for her to be like broken. But I put her in the S tier because like almost no one is at that level of Irelia, right? Like, the skill ceiling of Irelia is through the roof. Hey, it's kind of funny because it's a ceiling. It's through the roof. I don't know why I'm laughing. I don't know. Let's just keep going. Malphite. Now, a champion that the skill ceiling is not through the roof is Malphite. He's so easy to play. So like the easiest Baron laner. I would even say he's easier than Garen, because like, you can play the lane so easily. Just use your first ability to poke the enemy. In the late game, just hit your ultimate on the enemy and he does something. But he's surprisingly strong. Like, even if you're a skilled player, you can really make him work in lane and be a big threat to the enemy, whether you play him full AP or full tank. It does, like, both are good paths. So yeah, next up is Jax. I put him down a little bit because the nerf does hit him. The early game AD nerf definitely hits him. He's going to be much weaker at level 1. You can't really trade with the likes of a Garen or a Fiora early game anymore. You're just not going to win that because you don't have enough AD. Late game Jax is exactly the same, by the way, but it's just the early game that hurts him a little bit now. So you have to play him a bit more safely up until, like, level 3. Level 3, he's going to be fine again, but like the very early levels, he's significantly weaker. Next up is Shen, and Shen you have to be good as well. Like, laning with Shen is not amazing and stuff, but the thing that is amazing about Shen is his ultimate. If you time his ultimate well, oh, it is so annoying to deal with. Like, imagine the enemy jungler going into your team, nearly dying, but then suddenly Shen ults and goes in, taunts your entire team and kills your entire team. It's crazy. Like, this one thing that Shen has to offer, which almost no champion has to offer in the game, is what makes him such a powerful champion. Like, and he can play lane very safe, nice and easy too, because his first ability allows him to trade very easily with champions. His second ability dodges attacks, and his third ability is a taunt. And every time he uses an ability or like calls his blade, he gets a barrier. So like, he can play his lane so nicely and safely. I'm gonna skip a few champions, by the way, because I don't want to make the video like 1.5 hours long. Nautilus Baron lane. I'm working on it. This champion is incredible. Like, his early game in the Baron lane is so unbelievably powerful. And then, of course, in the late game, he becomes such a big tank. Again, I'm working on it. You guys are going to see a Nautilus video from me very, very soon. He's just very strong. Like, he has one of the strongest level 1s if you upgrade his second ability. And like, he just does so well. Like, if you're up against a champion that doesn't do any true damage, you should win your lane. Of course, if you're against a Darius or something, you're gonna struggle a little bit as a Nautilus because he can ult you. But yeah, like, Nautilus is just pretty much always a good pick in the Baron lane. Camille, as I said, right, I explained it earlier. Khazadin. Now, Kazarin is not supposed to be a Baron laner, but this champion is so incredibly busted that he still works in the Baron lane. That's how broken this champion is. Even after the nerf, like they nerfed him yet again. That's not a good nerf. Like this is not a nerf that hits him. That hits him. Like his ultimate and his third ability are the things that are broken about Kazarin. You don't even really use the first ability too often, so they need to hit those to truly nerf Kazarin. Next up, we got Teemo. And yes, I'm working on a Teemo video as well, guys. Believe it or not, I'm working on a Teemo video. This champion, the buff is actually better than you may think. Because they buffed his second ability. But isn't his second ability useless, you may say? No, it is not useless. It's true that you fully upgrade the second ability lastly. But now, instead of always having, like, if you haven't taken damage for 5 seconds, you get 10% bonus movement speed. But instead of always having the 10%, now you always have the 15%. And now if you actually roll, instead of getting 20% movement speed, you get 30% movement speed. So you can very easily chase an enemy. And you can kite an enemy. For example, if a Garen is trying to chase you with his first ability, you can use your second ability to run away. He's not going to be able to catch up to you anymore. He used to be able to catch up to you because 20% was not enough. But now because it's 30%, he cannot catch up to you anymore. So that's the beauty of the buff that he got. So next up, I want to talk about Pantheon. Pantheon is actually quite decent now. Like the buff is surprisingly nice. Sure, late game Pantheon is still useless, but his early game is even stronger now. His empowered first ability really, really hurts now. Like it already hurt before, but now it like really, really hurts. Because it does 10 flat more damage and it scales better with AD. It has 10% more AD scaling. So it's quite nice. I already told you about Jace. Zed is honestly the same story as Kazarin. You can play him in the Baron lane. Like it just works. Especially with the reduced ultimate cooldown. Zed ultimate is just such a low cooldown now. So you can just play him in the Baron lane. Graves, like I put Graves down in the A tier because Graves just feels bad in this meta. I don't know why, but Graves just feels so bad in this meta. Maybe it's that a lot of the champions that are good right now counter Graves, but like to me, I've played Graves a few times. I've played against Graves a few times. He just sucks right now, but he didn't really get a massive nerf or anything. But that's how it goes, right? Like meta shifts, and some champions indirectly get buffed or nerfed, and Graves is one of them that to me feels indirectly nerfed. Cannon, you know, I mean, he's not that bad. He's not that bad. No, he's not that bad. Cannon is like top 8 here because his ultimate is so good. His laning is nice. He's ranged, so it's very nice and easy. You just need to have a tank in your team, but that ultimate is so disgusting on Cannon. Like, it can truly change games if you just have one good ultimate. Kill. Thing about Kill is, so even though he's actually quite low on the tier list, like bottom 8 here, if you're skilled at the champion, skilled at the champion, he's actually pretty nice. What's going on with me? It's a she, it's a woman. Why can't I understand that Kill is a woman? Why? Okay, so Kill is actually pretty nice if you just know how to play the champion. You have to play your lane safely, don't get low so you don't get ganked, and at late game you become very, very powerful. So next up I want to talk about Nasus, and Nasus feels kind of bad now. Like the first ability, you can't get as many stacks in the early game anymore. You get abused early game. You're not going to have, you're literally going to be weaker throughout the entire game because you can't accumulate as many stacks as you could before anymore. So you're going to have less, you're going to have less attack damage in the game, or sorry, less damage on your first ability throughout the entire game. It's just a nerf. But he's still playable. As long as you're in the A tier, I would say a champion is definitely playable. Jungle. I changed my opinion about Evelynn. I still absolutely despise this champion, and she's like the most broken jungler in the game. Like, she got nerfed and nerfed and nerfed, but still. The fact that she can just one-shot anyone in the late game without even showing herself and getting out of it for free because of her ultimate is broken. No champion has that to offer. Like, sure, Rengar can do that, but at least with Rengar, you can see it coming. You can see the ice, and then you can stick close to your team. But with Evelynn, you never see it coming. You're never safe, and she can one-shot you anywhere, however she wants to, literally anywhere. So that's what makes her truly broken. Next up is Wukong. Wukong is so unbelievably powerful in the jungle. He clears jungle pretty fast, and the same reason as Baron Lane Wukong. Divine Sunderer, Black Cleaver is just all super insane because your ultimate shreds the enemy's armor so easily with the Black Cleaver, and you become super tanky because Divine Sunderer and Black Cleaver give a lot of health. So Wukong in the jungle, Really, really powerful. Next up is Lee Sin. Lee Sin is also very strong. Of course, it's a bit different for Lee Sin because you have to do something in the early game. But Lee Sin is just an overall very strong champion because he's ganking. You know, he takes jungle pretty fast. He can secure objectives very easily. But even honestly, even in the late game, his ultimate is still pretty good in the late game. And his 1v1ing is actually pretty good in the late game. So even though Lee Sin is not really a late game champion, he's just so strong that you can still do stuff with him in the late game. And I like even you can catch out enemies in the late game. Like sure, team fighting is not that good, but you can ult enemies in the middle of your team and get free kills when you play decent. So even in the late game, he's actually pretty decent. Uh, Next up is Shyvana. Shyvana got a nerf. She gets less health now, I believe, but she's still insanely powerful. I wouldn't say she's utterly broken like she used to be anymore, but she's still absolutely insanely powerful. Just the change Shyvana is so amazing. I love it, and she's just really strong. Make sure you watch my Shyvana video because I only have one Shyvana video because I learned Shyvana when she got changed. She's insanely strong right now. If you don't know how to play her yet, you have to watch the video. Just look up HellsDevil Shyvana. Next up is Kha'Zix. He got nerfed and it hurt. Like this nerf really hurt Kha'Zix, but he's still S plus tier. That is how broken he used to be. Like his empowered first ability, they reduced the AD scaling by 10%, but it still does insane damage. And it's like he's still good. He's still really, really good. And if you're good at the champion, you're still gonna be able to abuse him, but you are gonna feel a difference. You're definitely gonna feel less damage from him now. Next up is Olaf. Oh my god. Olaf is so incredible. The fact that like just his ultimate alone is just so crazy. He counters a lot of tanks. You know, Nautilus, for example. I said there's not many champions that counter him, but Olaf actually does. You know, when you're up against a champion like that, Olaf just runs right through it with his insane true damage as well. And like even against a Jinx, for example, Olaf runs right through her. See, the only thing Jinx has to survive is her third ability, and it's such a strong ability to stop bruisers from catching up to her. But then Olaf runs right through it, right? Tristana, you can't ult Olaf away. Like that's the thing with Olaf. He works so well into a lot of champions. Keep in mind, however, there are also a lot of champions that counter Olaf. For example, Ezreal, because Ezreal can run away from you anyways. For example, Nunu, because Nunu can use his ultimate, get a lot of barrier, and absolutely destroy you. Because when Olaf uses his ultimate, he actually loses armor and magic resist. So keep that in mind when picking Olaf. Next up is Riven. Same story as Baron Lane, guys. Riven, you know, her ganking is not the best, but her early game fighting is insanely powerful. And even in the late game, she's very, very strong during those team fights. During the first dragon, she's so powerful when she unlocks her ultimate. Also, the items that Riven builds are just strong. You know, Black Cleaver, Divine Sunderer, Death Stance. All these items are such strong items. So that's honestly what makes Riven an S plus tier champion, jungler. Echo in the jungle, still very, very strong. They didn't nerf him in this patch, but I believe they nerfed him in the patch before that. I'm not sure, but I'm just talking based on what I'm seeing right now. Echo jungle is really, really strong. Yeah, I think they nerfed his jungle clear. But as I said, he's still very, very strong. His ganking is amazing if you know how to gank with him. Like if you hit your second ability on the enemy, if you use it properly, his ganking is amazing. Late game, he one-shots enemies as well. It's not like Evelyn, you know, it's not brain dead. At least the enemies see you coming. But late game, he absolutely one-shots squishies. It's crazy how much damage he does. Next up is Gragas. Gragas jungle. He clears jungle very fast, surprisingly fast. Especially if you reach the mid-late game, he like pretty much two-shots jungle camps. So it's really good for stealing away jungle camps and also just securing your own jungle camps. So like, if you get to the later game, it's so easy to just get yourselves even more ahead in the game because you take jungle much faster than enemies. So you accelerate your lead further so you can get those 3, 4, 5 item power spikes. Gragas' ganking is one of the best in the game. His catching out potential is one of the best as well, just because you can flash with the third ability. I have a million Gragas videos, by the way, guys, if you want to watch them. I'm actually really good at Gragas as well, so check them out if you want to. And then late game, Gragas is broken, right? Like if you reach 4 or 5 items, you one-shot squishies. It's crazy broken. Next up is Xin Zhao. Xin Zhao used to be utterly broken, but then they reverted the changes of his first ability. The cooldown is a bit longer, but it's still very, very low. Like, just Xin Zhao during 1v1s is crazy. His early game is very powerful. He only struggles a little bit in the late game, but he can still be a good tank in the late game because of his ultimate. Like, you go in, you use your ultimate, and enemies from outside can't damage you. And that is honestly a really, really very, very powerful tool that Xin Zhao has. in the late game. And it also deals damage based on the enemy's max health. So you can just initiate a team fight, instantly use your ultimate, and you're gonna chunk down the enemies. You know, you're gonna do a lot of damage to all of them. So just a very solid champion right now. Morgana jungle is very, very good as well. The only thing with Morgana jungle is she needs to get to the late game. Like, her ganking sucks. Believe it or not, her ganking sucks because you have to be able to hit the Binding Light, the first ability, but it's not an easy ability to hit. But once you reach the late game, you know, once you get that Leandry's, Rylai's Scepter and all that kind of stuff, it is so broken. You melt the enemies and you melt all of them. You put the pool on top of them and you slow all of them. You burn down their health. It does crazy damage in the late game. And you can spam it. And then your ultimate as well. It does a lot of damage in the late game. Next up is Nunu. Nunu is solid. You know, with the recent, well, not recent, like they buffed him like 2 months ago, and those buffs really made him viable, I would say. Like, he's so tanky. He's pretty good at 1v1s, but the only struggle he has, he really doesn't do that much damage. Like, during team fights, his ultimate is amazing, but it has counters, right? If the enemy CCs you, it instantly stops your ultimate. So, like, if you see a good draft for him, he works very well. But he's also really good at securing jungle, by the way. That's another thing that Nuno is really good at. Vi, I'm starting to change my opinion about Vi as well. Like, I'm starting to like Vi more and more. I mean, I already thought Vi was good, but I actually really think she's good. Like, really, really good. Better than I initially thought, because her ultimate is such a good ability. And especially with the ultimate changes, um, her ultimate is going to be on a lower cooldown, right? So it's really, really nice to be able to catch out enemies constantly with your ultimate as a Vi, because you become unstoppable, you knock them up, and your follow-up is very good because you knock them up, basic attack, third ability, you have your second ability, you have your first ability to knock them up again. So if your team follows up, it's a free kill. It's really, really nice. And honestly, Graves, I'm not sure what Graves is doing here. I'm really not sure what Graves. I didn't see him, I guess, because I update my old tier list, but Graves is definitely down here. Like, Graves, I mean, honestly, here, yeah, Graves sucks. Like, Graves really, really sucks. He's playable, but he sucks. Who do I want to talk about? Mundo Jungle. Yet again, this champion incredibly underrated. If you can play Mundo well, he is so unbelievably powerful. But not that many people that I've seen really know how to play Mundo. Like, you know, Sunfire Aegis, Spirit Visage Mundo. Whoo! Like, not only he becomes unkillable, the damage he deals is crazy. You know, the first ability chunks down enemies. Like, if the enemy, even tanks, even if the enemy has like 5,000 health, Mundo's first ability chunks it down because it does, like, on max level, I believe it does like 26% of the enemy's maximum health. No, sorry, 26% of the enemy's current health magic damage. So even if you're up against like a 6,000 health Scion, Mundo's first ability absolutely chunks him down. So that's the thing to keep in mind with Mundo. Before the fight even starts, Mundo can get the enemies to like quite a low amount of HP, like at least, you know, 60-70%, all of them. Next, I want to talk about Pantheon. I would still say he's not the most amazing jungler. You know, the buffs are good, but Pantheon is still Pantheon. And like, late game, he sucks. So if your team doesn't carry you in the late game, it's useless. And in competitive, I would say, I guess he becomes a bit better, but in solo queue, it's just so hard because you can't solo carry with Pantheon. You literally can't, because it's a single target damage champion. He has like some sort of an all-in, and then you can't do anything anymore. So unless your team is very good and carries you in the late game, he becomes useless, even if you're 20-0. And I've had those games happen where I literally get like 16 kills in the early game, but lose the game because I get outskilled and my team doesn't carry as well as the enemy. Next up is Rammus. Well, by the way, but Pantheon is good. Keep that in mind. Pantheon is definitely good right now. But I'm just talking about the weakness that he has. I'm only talking about why he's not S tier. Next up is Rammus. Rammus is incredible as well. I changed my opinion about Rammus too when I actually started playing him because he's so powerful. He's so tanky and his ganking is really, really nice actually. Also in the late game, his catching out potential is really nice because you can roll and use your ultimate to taunt the enemy and do a lot of damage. So like, those are things that he really has, which are very, very great. A weakness that he has, I would say, is if you're up against a lot of magic damage, they will chunk you down. Like Ari, for example, or Orianna, this champ is really chunk you down. You cannot do anything against them. They can maintain a distance and you can't really catch them. Master Yi, with the changes to the Navori Quick Blades, I believe it's going to buff Master Yi. I haven't actually tried it yet on him, but Navori Quick Blade and Master Yi, is a great combo. So that's why I think it's kind of an indirect buff to Mastery. Well, it is definitely an indirect buff, but I think it makes him stronger. And he already used to be pretty strong. Camille jungle got down under mastery even. That's how badly Camille got nerfed in the jungle, because you can't use the third ability. Well, you can, but you can't use the third ability as much anymore for mobility in the jungle. So jungle clear is going to be slower. Your ganking is going to be slower. It's just going to be a slower champion regarding everything. Next up, Rengar. Rengar is just really not that strong right now. You're much better off picking Evelynn. Evelynn does everything Rengar can do, but 10 times better. Doesn't mean Rengar is useless. He's definitely playable. Keep in mind, everything in the A tier, in my opinion, is playable. Below that, you should never really pick up. And talking about below that, that's Jax. Yeah, never ever play Jax jungle again, especially now. Like, his early game jungle clear is so unbelievably bad, and then even in the late game, his jungle clear is so bad now. So you just never want to play Jax in the jungle. Amumu as well. It's true that he's very low, but I definitely would say he's playable. Like, he's definitely playable in the jungle. So even though he's very low in the A tier, I actually think he's pretty decent. If you really know how to play him, he's good. A thing about Amumu though is you kind of have to have the right composition for it. For example, Amumu Ziggs is really, really good. Amumu Katarina is really, really good. Amumu Samira is really, really good. Why am I saying this? Because these are champions that can really follow up Amumu's ultimate very, very well. So if you have like crazy all-in champions, that's when you want to pick Amumu. Not when you have a sustaining composition. If you have a lot of tanks, for example, Amumu is not going to do anything, because if you can't one-shot the enemies, then Amumu's ultimate is really not that good. Next up, the mid lane. And I believe here I changed my opinion about it a lot. What was it? I'm trying to remember. My brain is not really working very well. So, where was it? What? I just can't remember. I remember last tier list I had the same problem where I couldn't remember something, and then apparently I had forgotten to put Shyvana on the tier list. My stupid ADHD brain is just so bad. But let's just start talking about the tier list. Oh, I changed my opinion about Ahri actually. I put her on top of the S tier. I put her above Diana because the new Ahri is just so powerful. It's crazy. Like, the fact that you can spam your ultimate is crazy to me. It's really, really strong. And um, like, it actually makes her so strong during team fights. She can, like, she was already really, really good at catching out enemies, but now she's also good at team fighting because the reset of her ultimate. Her ultimate does a lot of damage, like more than you would think, and she can get to the important target very, very easily because of the ultimate, right? And see, the beauty is now with Ahri, you can truly all in an enemy because of that reset, right? Like, you can really, really go deep into the enemy, and then if you finally get that one kill, you have another charge of your ultimate to just get out of the danger, right? And that's the thing that, in my opinion, made Ahri absolutely S+ tier right now. I wouldn't say she's broken though. Keep in mind, I wouldn't say she's broken. Just top of S+ tier. I don't think a mid laner. Where's Khazad? That's what's missing. That's what's missing. Khazad. I forgot to put Khazad in the mid lane. Oh my god. Samira as well. I forgot to put Samira in the mid lane. She's somewhere here. So Khazad. I was just gonna say, where the hell is Khazad? Because this is a champion that is, I would say, nearly broken. Nearly broken. Because sure, they nerfed him. Sure, you need to reach level 13. After level 13, Khazad is utterly beyond broken. But before level 13, there's a window of opportunity to actually win the game. As I said, if Khazad reaches level 13, you literally lost the game. Like, it's unbelievably hard to kill a Khazad. You can only really kill him with hard CC. If your team doesn't have any hard CC, you're never gonna kill him. Next up is Diana. Diana is also incredibly powerful still. Diana hasn't been nerfed. That's the thing about Diana. Since she's been S+ tier, she just never gets nerfed. She's so powerful. Her ultimate and everything, the bonus attack speed she gets, her ganking, the turret pushing, her laning, everything is just good. Like, she works into any champion. She's just so strong. And Orianna is honestly the same. And honestly, even crazier with Orianna, because no one counters Orianna. Literally no one counters Orianna. So, and if you get to the late game, if you're a good Orianna player, you can absolutely hard carry the game. I made an Orianna video very recently, by the way. Like, Orianna is just crazy powerful. The damage she does. But the problem is, well, not problem for Orianna. The thing with Orianna is she does it all for free. Like, she damages the enemies for free. She outranges almost every champion in the game. So it's just a crazy champion, honestly. Another crazy champion, but for a different reason, is Katarina. Man, Katarina. It really doesn't matter how much she got nerfed. there's always gonna be the Katarina one tricks that will absolutely destroy you. And I find that crazy with this champ because she's not an easy champion to play. But there's so many good Katarina players. It's crazy. Like there used to be a time where Katarina was absolutely busted. And I believe there was no draft back then, so you couldn't actually ban her, I think. And people abused the hell out of her. Every game she got picked. And if you were up against her, you would just straight up lose the game. It was crazy. So people got really good at Katarina because of that moment that Wildrift had. So that's honestly why I put her in the S plus tier. Like she's pretty good. She herself is not S plus tier. I would rate her S tier. But people are so incredibly good at Katarina that I'm putting her S plus tier. Next up is Aurelia, and I am putting Aurelia S plus tier regardless of her being such a hard champion because I feel in the mid lane she's really, really strong. You just have to stun the enemy with your third ability and you can force a flash in the early game because you do third ability, first ability, basic attack, ignite, another first ability, and you've chunked down like 80% of their health. It's crazy. And early game, they will have to use their flash. Late game, they'll get killed anyways because your first ability cooldown is like 3 seconds or something. So that's why Aurelia is broken. Like, well, not S plus tier, not broken. Talking about the S tier, Yasuo is very, very strong. Surprisingly strong, honestly. But he also takes a lot of skill. And thing with Yasuo is, if you have some knockups in your team, he can follow up so unbelievably well and pretty much one-shot the enemies. And not only that, he works well into tanks too, because after you use your ultimate, he gets a lot of armor penetration for 15 seconds. So, you know, Yasuo, he just works into a lot of those things. And if you're good at the champion, his laning is also very, very strong because you can constantly dash through your minions with your third ability and constantly poke the enemy with your first ability. Karma mid lane is actually S plus tier, not S tier. Her damage is just through the roof. The empowered first ability with Luden's Echo Rabadon's Death Cap is so crazy. Like before a team fight even starts, she can chunk down like 50% of the health from the squishies. It's absolutely crazy. Even from the front lines, like even tanks, she will chunk down like 15 to 20% of the health for free because the range is so big. And the Luden's Echo as well, like Karma is just crazy. And then Karma's ultimate and her third ability as well, her kit is just so unbelievably broken. And when you play her in the mid lane, you're going to get more fat than when you play her in the support role. So you're going to get more gold, more items, and more everything. Akshan is also insanely strong in the mid lane. I would nearly put him in the S plus tier, but Akshan also takes a lot of skill. I am actually really good at Akshan and I'm working on a new video on him for you guys. But Akshan in the mid lane is way stronger than some of you may think. There are some people that know how strong Akshan is, but then there is a lot of people that really don't. But guys, make sure you watch my Akshan videos because I'm actually really good at the champion and I can teach you a lot about him. I'm gonna make a new Akshan video very soon as well, so be on the lookout for that. Twisted Fate is just very, very solid. You know, what should I say? He has one of the best CCs in the game, one of the best ganking in the game. The only thing he struggles with is sustained damage. But I made a Twisted Fate video a few days ago. You should definitely check that video out. It's one of the best games that I've ever uploaded on my YouTube channel. So if you haven't watched it already, make sure you watch the Twisted Fate video that I'm talking about right now. Zed in the mid lane is incredibly powerful as well, especially with the ultimate changes. You can spam the hell out of your ultimate. His ganking is very, very nice. He can push waves pretty fast. The only thing is his all-in got nerfed many, many times. Like his ultimate does significantly less damage compared to the old set, but you have it much more often now. So that's kind of the compensation that you have. But it's a bit harder to one-shot enemies now with Zed's ultimate. Echo doesn't have as bad of a time one-shotting enemies, but Echo is a bit different, right? You have your ultimate to be safe, but after you use your ultimate, he's really, really hard to navigate with because sure, he can go in very well, but he can't get out anymore. That's the thing with Echo. He can only get out with his ultimate. So after you use your ultimate with Echo, you should really have at least one kill because if you don't, then he's really going to start struggling after that. Next up is Ziggs, and Ziggs' bombs do crazy damage. Ziggs is broken in competitive, but even really, really good in solo queue. Like, his turret pushing is great, his laning is amazing, his ganking is pretty decent because of his ultimate, and then his late game is crazy because his ultimate does so much damage in the late game. You can constantly spam your first ability and your third ability in the late game as well. And even if you miss like half of them, if you hit the other half, it's gonna chunk down the enemies like crazy. Next up is Corki. Corki is actually good now. They buffed Corki, especially the ultimate buff is really, really nice. So Corki is pretty good. I kind of want to do a troll build with Corki, a troll build video. You know what? I'm gonna do it. I'm not gonna tell you guys what the troll build is gonna be. You guys are just gonna have to see what I'm gonna do. Next up is Veigar, and they nerfed his third ability. They made the cooldown 2 seconds longer, but still, Veigar is incredibly powerful. Not S plus tier anymore. He used to be S plus tier. Now he's only S tier. I would say he's balanced now. Like he's just very very good, but he's not broken anymore. You cannot spam the hell out of his third ability. Next up is Akali. Akali in the skilled hands broken, but average Akali is just average S tier. Next up is Brand. Brand is also very, very strong. I still haven't made a Brand video. I'm actually really good at Brand, but I just like... Still, like when I make the videos, it has to feel right, but I still feel like I'm missing something with Brand. Like I haven't quite mastered him yet. But I will make a video on him, don't you worry. I have like 60 or 70 games on Brand. Like it's not like I don't have a lot of games on him. But yeah, he's incredibly powerful. His late game is broken. His early game is decent because you can poke the enemy with his third ability. But yeah, it's really all about his late game. It's absolutely broken, his team fighting. Like even if you just use your ultimate and stasis, the amount of damage that it all does is just absolutely crazy. Next up, I want to talk about Lux. Lux mid lane is great, right? It's great, but it's quite hard to play because you have to be able to hit your ability. But the thing that's truly great about Lux is the ultimate, because not only can you snipe enemies and all that kind of stuff, you can manage waves with it. You can literally manage the entire mid lane wave with one ultimate. Like late game, you're gonna one-shot the small minions with your ultimate. So you can pretty much create a slow push in mid lane for your ultimate. And the cooldown is gonna be up in like 25 seconds anyway. So it's not that long of a cooldown. Pyke mid lane is surprisingly good. I still need to make a Pyke video. I haven't really been playing Pyke because I'm focusing on a lot of other videos, but Pyke mid lane is actually incredibly powerful. He does so much damage with Electrocute proc. His ultimate is great. His ganking is actually pretty good too. It's just his late game that's not that good. But yeah, the early game power and the mid game power definitely compensates for it. Samira mid lane is also pretty decent. The only problem she has is range. She doesn't have great range. Her ganking is also not the best. But Samira is really, really powerful, and her mid lane is also, you know, pretty good, I would say. Aurelion Sol, I put a star next to him because you guys know it, right? The good Aurelion Sol players are gonna make him work, but he's so hard to play. You really have to have a certain playstyle to play him well. You know, with the ganks, with the first ability, managing your stars. It's just such a rough champion to play. But if you can play him, he's very, very powerful. And Aurelion Sol mains know what I'm talking about right here. And the rest, honestly, you know, they're all playable in the mid lane, but they're just not that strong. They're really not that strong. About Seraphine, I want to say something about Seraphine. If you're up against a lot of melee champions, you pick Seraphine. I guess one of the only champions that actually hard counters Diana would be Seraphine, because when you're playing Seraphine, you absolutely smash Diana in the lane. I remember that actually. So if you're up against a Diana, you can actually pick Seraphine and destroy her in the mid lane. So that's one thing that Seraphine can do, I guess. Next up is the Dragon lane. Where's Samira? How do I forget Samira? Jesus Christ. Here. So, first of all, Vayne. Like, I hate Vayne because it really doesn't matter who you're up against. There's only a few champions that hard counter Vayne, like Twisted Fate, for example. But it doesn't matter. Like, if Vayne gets ahead, you lose the game. You just lose the game. Literally lose the game. There's nothing you can do. And that's the thing with Vayne. She's so slippery. She can push you into the wall, kill you for free. She can roll so much. Her second ability gives her even more attack speed and healing. It's crazy. This champion is crazy. And like all the nerfs are still not enough. They're still not enough. And I'm still putting her as the best ADC in the game. Next up, we got Ezreal. And Ezreal is very, very powerful as well. His first ability is just really strong. They buffed the AD ratio recently, and that's what makes it so much stronger than before now as well. Ezreal's ultimate is also great. Like if the enemies are fully engaging in your team, you can hit like a 5-man ultimate and do insane damage with it. Also, if your team is engaging, you can use your ultimate to follow up. So it's just very, very great. And late game Ezreal is very slippery because every time you hit your first ability, you actually reduce all of your other cooldowns by 1.5 seconds. So you're going to have your third ability up more often, and you're actively reducing the cooldown of your ultimate every time you hit your first ability. So that's another thing about Ezreal. Just a very, very good champion overall. Next up is Lucian. And I feel like with the Navori Quick Blade buff, it fits Lucian super well. I need to make a new Lucian video actually, because as I said, Navori Quick Blade is the perfect item for Lucian. So now, especially when it's cheaper and when it gives more ability reduction, cooldown reduction, I feel like it's gonna be insane on Lucian. Next up is Kai'Sa. Kai'Sa's not a very much played champion. Not that many people play Kai'Sa, but I feel like she's S plus tier. She's very, very strong. She works very well into a lot of champions. You know, her ultimate is great. Her laning is pretty good. I actually want to make an AP Kai'Sa video just for fun. I haven't made that one for a while, but yeah, Kai'Sa in the Dragon Lane is just a very solid overall champion. Next up, we got your girl Samira. Oh my god, is Samira a strong champion, guys? She's so powerful. The only thing that counters her, well, there's two things that counter her: range and CC. If you're up against a Caitlyn as a Samira, you get destroyed in lane. But like, if you don't get CC'd during your ultimate, it is so crazy. Like, it does even more damage than Katarina's ultimate. Samira is just absolutely crazy. And also her second ability, the fact that it blocks projectiles, like you can block Ashe ults, you can block Seraphine ults, you can block Senna ults, you can block all these kinds of abilities that would be devastating otherwise. So like, if you're really good at Samira, she's crazy strong. Next up is Caitlyn. I'm starting to love Caitlyn a bit more. I told you guys I was working on a Caitlyn video. I still am. She's so powerful, right? The only thing she struggles with is like mid game and late game tanks. She really cannot chunk down tanks as well as other ADCs can. Like Vayne destroys tanks. Ezreal's pretty good into tanks. Samira is pretty decent into tanks. Kai'Sa as well. Like all these champions do pretty well into tanks. But Caitlyn, no. Like you struggle so hard into these tanks. Because you only do raw damage. You do nothing based on the enemy's health or anything like that. So that's the thing with Caitlyn. You really struggle against tanks. So that's why I haven't put her in the S plus tier. Next up is Ashe. Ashe, one of the most underrated champions in the game. I keep saying it. This champion is insane. Top of S tier. Crazy powerful. You know, if you just basic attack an enemy, the fact that it slows that enemy allows you to catch an enemy for free. And then Ashe's ultimate, which is one of the best ultimates in the game. Like, guys, Ashe is just so powerful. And she also has such a big range too. So just, guys, Ashe, if you haven't picked her up yet, you definitely should. And make sure you watch my Ashe videos, because this is another one of those champions that I'm really good at. Next up is Jinx. I put her in the S tier, but honestly, Jinx is only really S tier if you have a good enchanter. You're kind of reliant on having a good enchant player in your team. Because if you don't, then Jinx is really going to struggle. I'm so hungry, by the way, guys. And okay, random talk. This is gonna be a random minute real life talk. If you guys want to skip it, you can skip it. I have like pretty severe ADHD, and I am struggling with it quite a lot now. I'm struggling with it because I can't push myself to do work. Like, I would do nothing all day and push my work till 4 a.m., which is exactly what I'm doing right now. It's 4:30 a.m. right now, so I'm not gonna be as focused anymore. And I just can't focus. Like right now, I'm hungry and I'm just thinking about food, and it's so hard to focus on the tier list. That's life with ADHD, guys. Phew. Back to focus. Where was I? Jinx, yeah. Next up is Xayah. I don't even want to talk about Xayah. I find it such a boring champion. I just don't even want to talk about it. Next up is Varus. This is AP Varus that I'm talking about. Lethality Varus is actually still decent, and I would say S tier. But AP Varus is also good now. AP Varus is genuinely good now. I wouldn't say it's amazing, but it's good. If you're up against a lot of tanks, you can definitely pick AP Varus and absolutely make it work. Next up is Tristana, and with the Navori change, guys, Tristana becomes so powerful. I'm working on a Tristana video as well. She's so strong right now, guys. She's so unbelievably strong right now. Actually stronger than Varus. I would definitely say she's stronger than Varus right now. Like, you just have to get through the early levels, get your range up, and then when she gets to like the higher levels, you have such big range. She's so strong, and her third ability, first ability, all of her abilities are so strong, and now you can spam them because you built Navori Quick Blades on her, and you can spam the hell out of her abilities. Next up is Draven. I don't think Draven is strong anymore. Like, I really don't think he's strong. Samira also hard counters Draven, so like there is a new counter on the table against this champion. I just don't think Draven is good in this game anymore. I feel like he needs to get buffed again, because yet again, the meta doesn't favor Draven. This current meta definitely doesn't favor Draven. Next I want to talk about Jhin. Jhin sucks, but I have a Jhin video for you guys coming soon, because I'm a god at Jhin. But yeah, Jin sucks. You shouldn't really play him unless you're like a god like Jin player. Misfortune is not C tier, by the way. She's here. She's above Jin. I'm not sure why I put her all the way down there. She's really not that bad. She's pretty decent, actually. That's another champion that I yet again changed my opinion on. There was actually a moment where I genuinely thought Misfortune was broken because I pushed myself to challenger with Misfortune, but that was in duo queue. But in solo queue, it's a bit different. If you don't actually have a really good support, she's obviously not broken. She can't really carry herself. Next up is the support role. And right here, Yumi, Karma, same old story. These champions are broken. Next up is Nami. Nami is actually surprisingly close to the two because Nami has it all as well. She has the healing, the buffing, and crazy good CC as well. And she can hold her ground too. Like Nami herself actually does a lot of damage with her second ability. It's crazy. So Nami really has it all. Like she truly has it all. And especially the ultimate. I really want to emphasize how strong this ability is because not only does it knock up enemies, not only does it slow enemies for a long duration, it also buffs the movement speed of your allies by an insane amount because it buffs it 3 times more than any other ability does. So like all of these things that Nami has to offer, she also offers movement speed to her allies because every ability gives movement speed to her allies. And as I said, the ultimate gives it times 3. So crazy, crazy strong champion. Thresh is also very, very strong. If you're able to hit your abilities on Thresh and able to fully use the second ability properly to like get your allies into the fight or get them out of the fight, Thresh is incredibly powerful. And the buff that they did to Thresh, like now he gets 2 ability power and 2 armor per stack instead of 1 and 1.5. They kept buffing it and now it's actually very, very strong. You become super tanky late game and you're going to start to do a lot more damage in the late game as well, especially with that empowered attack that you get from your third ability. Spike support is great. Not as great as Lulu, but is great. Yeah, this is how I would do it actually. Pike support is great because if you're a skilled Pike player and you hook the enemy very often, you can really punish those enemies. And the thing with Pike is, if you do get ahead, if you do get those kills with your ultimate, not only you are gonna get fed, the teammates that take down that enemy are gonna get fed too, because that's how Pike works. When you kill an enemy with your ultimate, you give a lot of gold to your allies. Next up is Rakan. Rakan is still incredibly powerful, right? Like you go full AP Rakan. His all in is really, really strong because it has crazy CC and crazy damage. So like his team fighting is great. His ganking is great. All of that kind of stuff. He really has it all, to be honest. He really has it all, yeah, because he also has a barrier for his teammates with his third ability. And he has healing with his first ability. So he really has it all. Next up is Lulu, one of the best enchanters in the game right now. Like she buffs attack speed, she buffs the damage because you apply Pixie on your allies. She's really crazy strong. Like she's broken with Jinx, but she's also really powerful with Vayne, Tristana, even Jax, Olaf, these kinds of champions. So Lulu is a very, very solid support right now. Alistar is great too, really, really nice. He does get countered by true damage, and there is actually more and more true damage in the game, but I would still say Alistar is very good, because turret diving, Alistar is the best at turret diving in the game. Like, definitely the best. So, Alistar is still a very, very solid champion. Janna, very underrated. The shielding is great. The second ability hurts a lot and slows a lot. And then the first ability, when they buffed that tornado, it actually started making the first ability very, very useful. As opposed to before, when the first ability was actually a very slow tornado. But now it's very, very fast, so it's quite useful. Sona support, very underrated. Very underrated. There are champions that hard counter Sona, like Ashe, Malphite, like Annie. These are champions that definitely destroy Sona. But if the enemies don't pick any of those hard countering champions, Sona is well, not S plus tier, but like top of S tier. They even had to nerf Sona. She used to be S plus tier, but they had to nerf Sona. They nerfed her ultimate, the cooldowns on her abilities. They nerfed her shielding on her second ability, and they nerfed the healing of her second ability. But she is still S tier. And that is how good Sona is in the game. Next up is Senna. Senna is great, her early game poking, her late game damage. She's like a secondary ADC. But definitely make sure you have a tank in your team. The only reason I don't put Senna in the S tier anymore is because, well, not anymore, not right now, is because you won't have an enchanter in your team. Like you're missing out on an enchanter and you're missing out on a tank. Instead, you're putting like another ADC in your team. And Senna is not even as good as she used to be anymore because her range got nerfed by a lot. So Yeah, and her damage got nerfed. Literally, the damage, like the maximum health damage that she does now, got nerfed. The current health damage, sorry, of her passive. When you hit an enemy twice with a basic attack or an ability, it does much less damage than it used to anymore. So you won't get through tanks as fast as Senna anymore as she used to be. So Senna just got nerfed and she's just sitting comfortably in the A tier. Nautilus support is great. Braum is great. You know, Lux is actually better. Like Lux is better than Senna. There's a few things that I'm changing up right now because I forgot to change them. Blitzcrank. I want to talk about Blitzcrank, guys, because this champion is crazy now. They buffed. What did they buff about Blitzcrank? I think they buffed the hook, right? I don't remember what they buffed, but they buffed something about Blitzcrank that made me think that he's really good now. And yes, he's actually really, really good. Especially, guys, if you reach level 13 with Blitzcrank, the ultimate cooldown is 11 seconds. 11! You can literally spam your ultimate. It's crazy, like, and it's a pretty strong ability as well. So Blitzcrank is very nice. Like his early game is nice, you can catch out enemies, but his late game, people think Blitzcrank late game sucks, but Blitzcrank late game is probably even stronger than his early game because you can catch out enemies with hooks. Your third ability is going to be on an insanely low cooldown, so you can constantly knock up enemies. And his ultimate, guys, like his ultimate is crazy, crazy powerful in the late game. Next up is Soraka. Soraka is a bit underrated. I would actually put her in the A tier, like bottom A tier, but behind Blitzcrank. Soraka is great. Like her healing is very, very nice. Her first ability allows her to heal for free, and she can sustain very easily too. And her ultimate as well is just crazy. And then also that third ability. Oh my god, the third ability of Soraka. It's a very forgotten ability, but it can be absolutely disastrous for the enemy. Like if Katarina goes in and ults, you can literally stop that ultimate with Soraka's third ability because it silences that enemy. Same goes for Samira ultimate, right? Like if you're playing Soraka and Samira ults, just use your third ability and stop it. It's that easy. Um, Next up is Mundo. I want to talk about Mundo support because the only reason I put Mundo in the support list is to counterpick Thresh. Mundo is the single biggest counter to Thresh. So if the enemy picks Thresh, you can pretty much win lane for free by picking Mundo. Because Thresh can never hook you and you can always trade with Thresh with your first ability. And it's so easy because when Thresh uses his abilities, he kind of roots himself in place. So you can just use your first ability as a Mundo to hit him. And you can use Font of Life to heal up yourself and your ally as well and just win your lane for free. And then after you've chunked down the enemies, you use your ultimate as Mundo, you dive the turret and you kill the enemy. So Thresh has no chance. So whenever the enemy pick Thresh, try to pick Mundo's support against this. Maybe I should make a video of it. I don't know. But yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm gonna go have some food. Why is my eye red, by the way? That's also my allergy. I have so many issues, man. You guys don't even know. So thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you all in the next Wild Rift video. Bye bye.